one big thing with her was, with sand being available obviously on the beach, we would draw a big diagram and map it out as to what her strategy was for that final or that race that was coming up. And she responded to a visual. She needed, I could talk to her verbally and she'd get most of it, but she really responded from seeing a bit of a map on where the cans were, where the rips were, where the sandbank was, and what kind of strategy we're going to use. That was Casey. Elise spotted the camera obviously, and then pulled back off the line just to check that she was in focus and everything was sorted. So I was saying totally poles apart, but equally as talented and physically gifted. So they would finish on the same wave and just a run up the beach separated them. But Elise, on Carnival Day, the conversation was nothing to do with the race she was about to do. It was about how many hot guys from the neighbouring club that she had a chance to talk to. And by distancing or disassociating herself from what was about to happen, that kept her relaxed, that kept her jovial, and that was the way it was. So the key point there, just to share with you to kick it off as far as communication goes, as someone working with kids and even life in general, if we know what makes them tick and we know what kind of personality and communication style they have, we will always succeed in getting our message through 100%. And I'll talk a little later on about people that are audio heavy. They respond best from the verbal, just hearing. They understand it. And some of you will be like that tonight. You will have got every single presentation purely from the verbal and what's been given to you as an audio. Others need a visual, so the pictures and stimulus here, and like in Casey's role, in position, she needed to see a bit of a mud map and a layout on the ground. And the other one is what we call kinesthetic. The kinesthetic is the doing. So the teachers would know at school, there are kids, if you go the full chalk and talk, they're tuned out within 5-10 minutes. But the kinesthetic dominant learners, students at school, what subjects do they excel in? What do they do best at? The practical subjects like PE, like sport, manual arts, home ec, anything that's hands-on, and they do learn best by that. So any involvement with the kids, when you are coaching, as a role model in your dealings, make sure you cover off on all of those. All right? It's not teaching people how to suck eggs, it's just saying, even as a refresher if you know that, just make sure you're not, and I fall into the trap sometimes of being real verbal heavy. I just talk, okay, let's go, and I'm sure that the visual learners and the kinesthetic is sort of about half that, but a demonstration would have been extra good, or to have written a session up on a whiteboard would have been extra good. Okay, I touched on us looking at kids in a physical sense. We can measure fitness testing parameters, we can measure them in their skill level, we can see it, it's tangible, it's there, but their social development, their mental development and their spiritual are equally as important. And again, I know for a fact that I have sometimes just looked after the physical and gone, yeah, all good, without fostering or having an awareness, I think is probably the key word, to the kids' mental development, their social and their spiritual. So an awareness such as you're working with your group and you've got a kid off to the side, and that awareness says, okay, if that's been happening for a couple of sessions or they're not engaging with the rest of the group, there's a social issue. So you need to pull them inside. But equally as important. So the development of the whole individual, we really do need to make sure we cover off on all four of those. So the terminology we use is bad parenting. And I don't stand here tonight to say, hey, look, I've been there, done it, this is the strategy, this is what you've got to use, because there's probably a multitude of ways that you can deal with a bad parenting situation or conflict resolution as it rears its head throughout the season. But from the amount of hands that went up to say, hey, you know, it's an issue in just about every sport, and curling I'm sure we'll talk about a little later on. What I will say is this, at the start of your season, sit the kids down, or the group that you're working with, and on a whiteboard or a butcher's paper or a blackboard or whatever, get them to write down what their goals are for the year. This is our season, it might be 6 months, it might be 12 months, 10 months, whatever. What's important to you guys? Let's have it, let's write it up. What's important? Having fun. All right, there it is. What else? It's a team sport, so it's important that everyone turns up on time. Okay, punctual, everyone makes every session. And you formulate that list. And you might stick that list up in the clubhouse or in a great position where they're going to revisit it every now and then, even subconsciously they'll see it. And you might type it up, and from there give the kids a copy, and from there also give the parents a copy. And then if a situation escalates through the year where a parent crosses over a little bit, gets a little bit pushy and a little bit verbal and a bit trying to live their life through their kids' DNA, as Phil likes to talk about, then it's a good chance to then come in and say, hey listen, this is the list. This is what's important to your kid and the rest of the kids in the team. How about you pull your head in a little bit and realise that it's about them. It's not about how much success you can have with reliving your life, through your kid. So that's one strategy that I would suggest, and probably a lot of the clubs and the representatives that are here probably do that with the kids. But from the very early start, outlining your philosophy and what your involvement is with them, and giving them a copy. Here you go. Does that make sense? In the theme of surf lifesaving, I'd like to throw this up very, very quickly. Hey, Terry. Grant Kenny, in our particular sport, there's probably plenty of other examples in other sports, I find is so inspirational. We spoke to a group the other day about it. He's done everything there is to do and dominate in our sport of surf lifesaving. Very, very successful businessman and done most things to do with there, set himself up nice. But he is still there this year as an under-13 age manager at Mooloolaba Surf Club, working with the kids on the front line at the coalface, bringing those kids through and educating them to be great kids leading into the big picture for skills for life. And I just think it's fantastic. And you see him on the beach and you see him relating to the kids and upskilling them and assisting them and so forth. So for someone that's done it all, to be back there at the grassroots, I just think it's fantastic. Basically, I'm taking something from the left-hand side, which is a barrier or a hurdle, to coaching kids, and this applies to all sports, and flipping that into a positive on the right-hand side. So the example we gave with the parents was to educate the parents, share with them what you're doing, so your philosophy, and include them. Give them a job. Might be a simple job of cutting up oranges or washing the team uniform each week, but make them feel included so they feel like they've got a little bit of ownership. I think quite often those that sit outside are the most vocal and they have no involvement whatsoever. So if they get a little bit of a role to play, they feel like they're a part of it, they feel like they're involved actively, even if it's a minor role, and it could be scoring, it could be stats, it could be whatever. But at least they've got a job to play and they feel like they're part of the team and will work in a more positive role than a negative one. A quick quote here, this was from a performer, and for me, to be honest with you, it's all about just being the best they can be. Not every kid's going to win the gold medal, finish second, finish third, get on the podium, make the rep team, get the tracksuit, whatever the case might be. But if they know that you are 100% behind them to be the best that they can possibly be, and you will reward that, share that experience with them. So in our sport of surf lifesaving, they walk up the beach, they miss the final, or they finish sixth, they are still a winner because they gave it their best effort 100%, and to recognise that just reinforces that, and things are good. And there are sports there where there's the bounce of the ball, or the luck involved with the wave being there or not being there, and just empathising with them and communicating with them, hey, there's good days and bad days and you roll with it, that's how it's going to happen. And the weather conditions and the environment that you're playing under. So it's good that they need to hear that. They just need that reassurance. So we better make a move. So just to reinforce this quickly, development of the whole individual. You've got your psychological, you've got your physiological. It's more so the physical we tend to focus on, but please cover off again on their social, their mental and their spiritual. Okay, volunteer, someone up the back with glasses to read that for us. Carry any takers? All right. As if we do that. Just kidding. To pick the bones out of it, like, again, it's common sense, guys. When you were a kid, think about it. What were the things that you remember or hit home that were positive and positive influences, and what were the negative ones? So colour-coded there, and I apologise for anyone who's colourblind, but the red ones, if the kids are getting mixed messages, if the activity is boring, if there's forced or aggressive behaviours, if it's too now, there's been plenty of times where I've tried a task that's been too complex, and I'm like, no, I'm sure, I'll pitch this to you guys, you've got the ability to do it. We kept trying and trying and trying, it just never happened. The kids are like, man, give it a rest. It's not going to happen. Come on, I know you can do it. No. So, be aware of that. But the blue ones, as I was saying when you were younger, the ones that you remember, there was opportunity to play. Key word, just to play a sport. How they learn, understanding how they learn, the need for a variety, need for fun, having fun and learning at the same time, ability to achieve a goal. So linked in with their spiritual development, that the kids set their own personal goals, and you talk to them about it and you revisit it on how they're going, be it 6 months or 3 months or even next week. Quick story about a kid, he turned up for swim training, and he said, Coach, I've had a massive day today. I had like 2 games with my sport. We played football twice, didn't sleep real well last night, Mum dropped me off, I've got to swim. coach said, all right, he said, do this, just treat it as a recovery session, get in and swim, do the set, slow your times down, have more rest, but just complete the set. But when you're doing it, I want you to pick one goal. Just focus on one thing that you want to do better than you've ever done before in this session. Can you do that for me? All right, coach, I can. I'll do it. 2 hours goes by, has a shower, comes out, coach stops him. Jamie, how'd you go? Good, coach, I achieved the goal. Fantastic, see? It wasn't a waste of time after all. What did you achieve? What did you do? She said, coach, today I dried myself better than I've ever dried myself ever before.